What up, everybody, and happy hump day. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective. I am Bad Dog. That's Adriana. This is Anthony joining us on location from across the pond at midnight over there, talking about dedication. Adriana's also going across the pond pretty soon here, too. Chris and I were going to stay in New York. We don't do anything with boring people.
That's dedication, Anthony. Not only are you on the show with us, it's midnight in England. You brought a green screen with you. That's even more impressive to me.
Yeah, you know it. Always got to stay prepared. Everything for Giants Collective. Got to keep it going.
I was going to say he came prepared. So I hope everybody had a great week. Obviously, when we get into this time of the season, there's not a ton to talk about because the draft is pretty much over. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of other drama. This is like the drama season now, I guess. I don't know. We'll start with the wide receivers. Gabe Davis was released today by Jacksonville. He's 26 years old. This obviously was all over Twitter. I go on Twitter really quick today and I see everybody dropping this. And I know Adriana mentioned this would be something to talk about. The Giants can obviously use more receivers. So they didn't go out and get another receiver to join Malik Neighbors. And they brought back Slayton. That's about it. Not really any other moves. They got Wan'Dale Robinson. Gabe Davis, do you see him becoming a New York Giant? I mean, obviously they got the Brian Daboll connection, and I think he's owed $12.5 million. What do you think, Adriana?
Mm-hmm. I think they should at least bring him in for a visit because they brought in a bunch of UDFA wide receivers, and he's young. He's still got potential. You know, he did well with the Bills and Daboll and Shane. So obviously we know they have that connection, but he also was a great wide receiver for the Bills. So I think that, you know, knowing his experience and knowing what Daboll wants to run, the fact that we have a veteran a veteran quarterback finally, who's going to be able to throw some catchable balls to whoever the wide receiver is. And just knowing that this offense is really going to be focused on moving the ball down the field and big explosive plays. And to bring in someone like Gabe Davis, I think can only help you. He's over 6 feet tall. He's a little bit more big bodied. He's 6'2", 225. And, you know, if God forbid Darius Slayton goes down, we're looking at Jalin Hyatt, like that's the replacement. So I think when you look at depth and you see some of the moves that the Giants have made so far, they've done a nice job of bringing in depth at wide receiver and offensive line and defensive line and, you know, some other positions, but wide receiver really hasn't been one of them. And, you know, they did give one of the UDFAs guaranteed money, but it's guaranteed money for him to be on the practice squad, Taquan Felton for Virginia Tech. So, you know, I think until we really see these guys at camp, we don't know. But what you do know about Gabe Davis is that he is an experienced, successful wide receiver in the NFL, and he's got that Buffalo connection. So I don't know how much money they're willing to spend on a veteran, but we do know that they are really focused on having veterans at positions across the board. And yes, they just paid Darius Slayton, but you know, they have their starting 3 wide receiver. And outside of that, there are a lot of question marks. So I think it's something they should definitely consider. And it's not going to hurt them, right? If they just bring him in for a visit, see how him and Russell Wilson connect and whatever, bring him in for a workout. I think at the very least, that's what they should do. But I think they should consider signing him for sure.
Now, there's another receiver's name out there, and I saw somebody bring it up in the chat. And we mentioned it before the stream as well. And it's more of a veteran wide receiver, Keenan Allen. He's 33 years old. Obviously, his best years are probably behind him. But out of the two, is there somebody you would prefer? Would you prefer the experience of a guy like a Keenan Allen that could come in here? You know what his reputation is, or a guy like Gabe Davis, who seems like he's kind of peaked and fell back. And maybe a change of scenery helps Gabe Davis. Maybe being reunited with Brian Daboll sparks him. But I don't know what the answer is here. Obviously, Keenan Allen, like I said, he's more recognized, but he's a little bit on the older side. Should they bring them both in? Which one would you prefer?
I personally prefer Davis because I do like the fact that he's younger. And I feel like him and Slayton and Neighbors would have a lot in common, having worked or been a wide receiver for a quarterback who has some issues. Now, Trevor Lawrence is significantly better than Daniel Jones. I'm not arguing that, but I'm arguing the fact that the Jacksonville was not a very good team last year. They have a whole new coaching staff. They're obviously making changes. And Brian Thomas Jr. is their number one. So they kind of already have that situated. We have it situated with Malik Neighbors as well. But I just think that to bring in someone like Davis, you have the veteran experience and he's young. So, you know, if you want to cut Darius Slayton after 2 years, or it's not working out for Jalin Hyatt, whatever their backup plan at wide receiver is, you have Gabe Davis, and it's someone that you already know and have good experience with. And I think we've seen that this has been a really big focal point for the Giants, whether it's been the draft. They've basically picked guys who have come in for top 30 visits. So that's been really important to them, that they have gotten to know these guys and meet them in person and have experience with them. So I could see them absolutely leaning towards Gabe Davis for that specifically. We know they did that when they have already brought in how many different Bills players, like outside of Devin Singletary, there's been a bunch of them already. So I could definitely see them, like that connection alone just being enough for them to say, this can be our guy. He's young enough. He can be part of the future. And I like that aspect better than maybe taking a chance on Keenan Allen, who's a little bit older. You know, he's 33 years old. He still has something left in the tank. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know. I just feel like this team is so young, and I really want to build a team that is young at the core so they can grow together. And Shane has also talked about this, the fact that, you know, the cornerbacks are all on 3-year deals. All of the deals that he made in free agency were essentially 2 or 3 year deals. So these guys aren't coming in for a year, you know, on and off and things like that. So that would lead me to think that Gabe Davis would be a better option for them because they would want him to come in for the future. And I also think that it's a better fit for Daboll's offense because it's going to allow him the capability to say, all right, Malik Neighbors doesn't have to play 99% of the snaps, or Darius Slayton doesn't have to play, or, you know, I can throw Jalen Hyatt in, or if I don't feel comfortable about doing that, then I still have Gabe Davis, who's this talented, good wide receiver who can have a resurgence with someone like Russell Wilson and maybe even grow with Jackson Dart if they decide, you know, that they want him to be part of the future of the team.
Anthony, you look like you're feeling pretty good over there. Just sorry. It's an observation. What do you think? I mean, would you prefer Gabe Davis, Keenan Allen? Do you care either way? Like, I mean, who do you think would be the better? To John's point, we do have a young wide receiver core. It might not be, although Slayton's kind of a veteran, but it might not be a bad option to bring in a guy like Keenan Allen. But if you had to choose, I mean, which one do you think is a better fit for the Giants?
I think Gabe Davis is a better fit for the Giants because of his youth and because of his familiarity with Brian Daboll. But to be completely honest, I don't think the Giants should sign either one of these guys. I think Russell Wilson in his intro press conference with the Giants made it clear that he believes in Jalen Hyatt, that he thinks that Jalen Hyatt is untapped potential. And I agree with him. I think that Hyatt in year one of his career really flashed something. Everybody said that he was a straight speed guy and all he could do is run a go route and catch it on the sideline. But I think about that comeback win against the Cardinals in week 2, and I think about him catching a deep one over the middle and one on the sideline with traffic going up there and making a play with a defensive back on him. So I think that Jalen Hyatt has a lot more potential than we've even come close to realizing. And so rather than spending some money on one of these veterans, I would rather the Giants just try and get the most out of what they have. And additionally, the Giants are really tight on cap space right now. They currently have $1.1 million in cap space, which is dead last in the NFL. And if you account for their rookie draft class, they have negative $9 million in effective cap space. So not only will the Giants struggle to sign a single free agent, but they're going to have to cut players and restructure contracts just to even be safe with the salary cap. So Keenan Allen in particular, though, I'm not interested in. Maybe last year I thought that he would be an intriguing option, but after seeing him in Buffalo, it's very clear to me that he has lost a step. He looks out of shape even with Buffalo, or not Buffalo, with Chicago last year. And then, of course, Gabe Davis. I'll say this. Gabe Davis is more interesting to me because I think he was a product of a bad circumstance. I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a poorly ran team, and they had a terrible offense built last year for Trevor Lawrence, who also missed a lot of time due to injuries. And if there's one thing that Mac Jones struggles with, it's the same thing that Daniel Jones struggled with. It's throwing the ball downfield with accuracy. And Gabe Davis is a downfield receiving weapon. So if I could see Gabe Davis having a second stint in his career where he has a revival, I could see it being with Russell Wilson and the New York Giants, and of course teaming back up with Brian Daboll. But ultimately, I think there are other areas of the roster that I would rather the Giants reinforce through free agency. And I still think that they should try their best to give Jalen Hyatt a chance. And maybe if they do sign one of these guys, it should happen in July after training camp if Jalen Hyatt doesn't step up to the plate. But I think personally, he's at least earned the right to have the opportunity in training camp to compete for that WR4 spot. So I'm leaning towards Jalen Hyatt. But again, if they do bring in Gabe Davis, I see some potential there, and I could see that being a beneficial signing as well.
To your point about Jalen Hyatt, obviously the Giants must have thought pretty highly of him. I mean, they traded up to get him. And I know I was super excited when we got him, and it just hasn't panned out yet. But as always, we can go back and look at the quarterback situation, and it certainly hasn't been optimum here since Jalen Hyatt's been here. Chris, do you have a preference on what the Giants do with, adding some depth to the wide receiver core?
I mean, I'm not going to be really excited.
By the way, real quick, I see you're representing all three teams.
Of course, I got the Mets.
I
got the Knicks.
I just noticed the Mets.
But I got to wear, like you're wearing, I got to wear my Knicks outfit today.
Yeah,
I got the game on in the background. Sloppy start, 9-4 Boston. But
we got him right where we want him.
We got him right where we want him. I agree with a lot of the things that Anthony said. I'm not going to get super excited if they bring in either one of these guys. I view both of them as depth guys. But if they're going to bring in one, Gabe Davis makes so much more sense. Obviously, Joe Shane was part of the drafting process for the guy. So, obviously, there's a link there. The Dable offense, you would think he'd be a good fit. He's a natural replacement for a guy like a Darius Slayton. If Darius Slayton were to get hurt, he would fit what you think at this point in time is still Russell Wilson's biggest strength, which is throwing the deep ball. And by the way, an underrated part of Gabe Davis's game, he's a tremendous blocker. Something that Sterling Shepard was very good at as well. So that's another aspect that I think he could bring to this receiving core. So if I had to choose between the two, and age, of course, is a factor too, being that he's only 26 and Keenan Allen's 33. I think Gabe Davis makes a lot more sense if they wanted to go that route. But I'm not going to be upset if they don't. If they believe that Jalen Hyatt could grow, they drafted him in the 3rd round, give him an opportunity in training camp. I'd be happy if we brought in Davis, but I see both sides of it. I'm not going to be upset either way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree a lot with what you guys are saying. Gabe Davis, I'm not going to get super excited and be like, oh my God, we just got Gabe Davis. At the same point, Keenan Allen, 33. I think Keenan Allen is more of a guy that is maybe like the final piece of a team that is ready to really compete. We're obviously not there. So to me, bringing in a guy that age doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to us. We're not ready to win a Super Bowl right now, but maybe I hate to mention the Eagles, they have enough receivers and maybe they wouldn't even want him over there, but that's the type of team where maybe Keenan Allen goes in there and gives you a couple of big catches, gives you some depth. If one of your guys gets hurt, you're not really going to fall off. You're not going to miss too much because they're such a well-rounded team. We're not that team at all. And to Anthony's point, the cap space is an issue for us. We obviously went out and spent a lot of money in free agency. It was good money spent. Well, we'll see. On paper, it's good money spent. But Jalen Hyatt really seems to be a guy that does have untapped potential. When Russell Wilson comes out and says that himself, obviously Russell Wilson must see something or must feel that he can really have a connection with Jalen Hyatt. And that's something that Gabe Davis doesn't give. And nobody really gives us that sheer speed threat on the outside. Jalen Hyatt does. And I would hope to see that Jalen Hyatt and Russell Wilson do get some kind of a connection, in training camp. I don't know how much Russell Wilson will play in preseason games. I wish these guys would play more preseason games. I wish that was more of a thing. It doesn't seem like anybody plays them anymore. And we come out and we're rusty the first 2 weeks. And I remember Joe Judge saying Joe Judge said the first 2 weeks of the season are an extension to training camp. Was he the one that said that one? That was pretty funny. Okay, it's not the extension of training camp. Play your guys in training camp, but they might get hurt. Sure, they might get hurt in the first snap of the first game too. You never know. It's football. But yeah, I'm not going to get overly excited about anybody that the Giants bring in at this point. I think all their big moves are made. They don't have a lot of money to make a really big move.
The other thing I meant to bring up too, thinking about it from Gabe Davis's perspective, I don't see the Giants outside of the fact of the Dable offense, which he's played in. I think there's a lot more desirable locations for him to go to. He's still 26. He still has potential, and he's playing for what he hopes is a contract next year. The Giants, to me, don't present a great opportunity for Gabe Davis to have a big year. He'd be wide receiver 4 on the depth chart. You look at a team like Pittsburgh, they just let George Pickens go. I think that would be a much better fit for him to get an opportunity. So I doubt it happens.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about that for a second. Not that we're Cowboys collective. We are Giants collective. By the way, the fastest growing Giants show on the social media outlets. Maybe not. I just like saying that. Sounds good. If you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. You can also check us out on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So check us out on those media outlets as well. The Dallas Cowboys did make a trade today for George Pickens. How much do you think that affects this division? I mean, George Pickens obviously is uber talented. He played at Georgia. He was great. A lot of Giants fans were wondering why we took Wan'Dale Robinson ahead of George Pickens. Wan'Dale is a smaller guy. We had Kadarius Toney at the time, and George Pickens is a much more physical, dynamic wide receiver. But in between the years, he's a little bit unhinged, to put it nicely. Anthony, do you think how much do you think this affects like our division as a whole with him going over to Dallas?
I think it'll have a pretty substantial impact because I think what Dallas was really missing last year was that second playmaker to take pressure off of CeeDee Lamb's shoulders. And the New York Giants in particular, I mean, we had fits last year against their passing attack, particularly trying to slow down CeeDee Lamb. And obviously, Deonte Banks, we're all confident that moving into a CB2 role will be better for him. But now he's facing George Pickens. So it's not like it really improved a whole lot for him. It's not like he was going from CeeDee Lamb to Michael Gallup like it would have been with the roster changes. Now he's going to have to face George Pickens. So I actually think this is going to be pretty impactful for the Giants. And I think more so than anything, it really reinforces the fact that the Giants do need a second playmaker in this offense to step up. Because when you're looking around the NFC East, all of these teams have at least two premier playmakers. You're talking about Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And now, of course, you've got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and Washington added Deebo Samuel to pair with Terry McLaurin. And they also do technically have Jaden Daniels, who I would say is a playmaker in his own right. So playmakers all over the place. I didn't even mention Saquon and Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. So there's playmakers all over the place in this division. And the Giants realistically have Malik Neighbors. And that's about it. Obviously, we like their 1-2 running back duo of Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy, but that's an unproven duo. The Giants really do, I think, in 2026, not to look too far ahead, but when you're looking at the shifting landscape of this division and how many playmakers run this division, 2026, the big goal needs to be to pair Malik Neighbors with another elite playmaker, especially considering the fact that is expected to be Jackson Dart's season, taking over the reins as the starting quarterback. So more so than anything, I don't think it changes a whole lot about the win-loss column for Dallas nor for the New York Giants, but it really just kind of refocused for me the needs of this roster. So we're talking about, for example, Gabe Davis and Keenan Allen and some of these veteran receivers. Those guys aren't moving the needle. The only way that the Giants are going to move the needle is if they add another premier playmaker like the Dallas Cowboys just did. So that's my primary takeaway from this. It just reinforces to me the Giants, they're on the right path. They've done a lot to build up this roster. Really impressed with what they did this offseason. But at some point, either maybe during this year at the trade deadline, whatever, maybe at training camp or next offseason, they really need to find that second premier playmaker to pair with Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the Giants haven't been built in 6 years. But we do need, obviously, they have playmakers. And to your point, Jackson Dart starting next year, I really do think they'll take Chris mentioned this a couple of shows ago, we took a major swing at the defense this year, and I think next year they will take a major swing at the offense. Chris, how much do you think the George Pickens move affects the division as a whole?
Yeah, as you said, that's what I said last week. I thought that's what they were going to do this year, anticipating they'd be drafting a quarterback like at 3, 4 months leading up to the draft. I thought they were going to go all in on the offense. After free agency, obviously, we started to get the hint of the plan that they were going to focus more so on the defense. And then being that they drafted Jackson Dart, they don't plan to throw him into the fire this year, at least until near the end of the season. At least that's the plan. I think next offseason they go nuts on the offense, whether that be to add an extra piece on the offensive line to get that second premier wide receiver. So I do think the Giants make a move similar to this one next year and get it, like Anthony said, get that second playmaker, because you look around this division, it's loaded. And it makes me happy that the Giants did focus on the secondary, because they're going to need a good secondary going up against some of these wide receivers this year. And hopefully the pass rush could get home. We know that's going to be the strength of this defense. Good pass rush could hide, a poor secondary, or at least an overmatched secondary when they go up against some of these teams with some of the weapons that they have. But, I mean, it just feels like such a Cowboys move, doesn't it? Like George Pickens is the biggest asshole in the NFL.
Yes, perfect Cowboy. Perfect.
In the NFL. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboys are the ones that trade for him. So he's definitely going to be one of the most hated members in this division if you're a Giant, Eagle, or Commander fan, for sure. And this could go either way, right? Like, I think a lot of people, when the Cowboys went out and got Brandon Cooks, thought that they looked and they're like, oh, my God, like now they got the speed on the outside along with CeeDee Lamb. And it didn't quite work out the way that the Cowboys envisioned it. Of course, Pickens is younger, and we know he's got more of an upside than Cooks did when he went to the Cowboys. But it may not work out. The guy's a head case. Who knows, right? It didn't work out with the Steelers. But it's obviously a move where you look at it, you're like, oh my God, they got CeeDee Lamb. Now they had a guy that, when he's right on the football field, is among one of the 10, 15, 20 most talented wide receivers in the NFL. So, yeah, it's alarming if you're a Giants fan. And to Anthony's point, we better improve the weapons going into next year for Jackson Dart when you look around the rest of this division.
I think Adriana actually liked this because Pittsburgh, I don't know what Pittsburgh's doing on offense, but if they go out and get Aaron Rodgers, remember they never drafted a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers in the first round. Now if he goes to Pittsburgh, they got rid of their best wide receiver. So Adriana, I know it makes you happy because you're a big I almost called him Brett Favre. You're a big Aaron Rodgers fan. Adriana, how do you feel that this move by the Cowboys impacts the division? I mean, George Pickens isn't just he's not Gabe Davis. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think he's obviously a talented football player, but I do think that we have seen is a little bit of a head case. So I am hoping that it blows up in the Cowboys' face. They have a new coach this year. They already have CeeDee Lamb, who's a number one. I just don't think that Pickens is chill enough, if you will, to be a number two, like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, I don't know. I don't know what he's like in the locker room, but he obviously is a little chaotic. So I'm hoping that it works against them and works in our favor. I do think he's going to give Tay Banks a run for his money. So I am a little worried about that. But the thing that I will say is, to me, it makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys. And the reason why it worries me as a Giants fan is because it doesn't matter who the Cowboys number two is. They've had Amari Cooper. They've had Brandon Cooks. Every single one of them, regardless of who it is, cooks the Giants every single time.
Even Michael Gallup.
CeeDee Lamb, yes, could be double teamed, and it doesn't matter because we're always getting screwed by whoever the other wide receiver is. So I'm more worried about that than anything because the Cowboys have had success against the Giants with their number two wide receiver. So I'm definitely worried about our secondary, but like Chris said, they made some good moves in free agency. They did bulk up the secondary. They've obviously got Abdul Carter now and Chauncey Golston and Darius Alexander. So I have some faith that the front four is going to get there and they're going to put less stress and pressure on the corners. But I do think when we go against the Cowboys, that is definitely going to be a problem. And I hope it's not. But I could see that, if you're the Eagles or the Commanders, you're thinking, great, now like Pickens is better than Cooks and Cooper was with the Cowboys, unless you're the Giants. But I think that if you're other teams, you obviously have to really plan for it. And I think both of those teams maybe feel a little bit better in their corner situation than we do. But I don't know. I'm trying not to give up on Tay Banks just yet. And I'm really hoping that second year in Shane Bowen's system, the front four getting home, a Debo being there is going to help him take it the next step further because I can't. I'm having flashbacks to the first Cowboys game last year at home, a Thursday night game. We're like this close to winning. And Tay Banks is just like, I'm going to let CeeDee Lamb do whatever he wants to do. Why is it always against division rivals where he decides he does not give one shit about what he's doing on the field? He did it with Hurts and the Eagles and with the Cowboys. I'm like, can you act like you like football for just a couple minutes? Like, for fuck's sake.
It seems like a lot of the Giants didn't seem like they like playing football. When you lose, I can understand that can be detrimental to your confidence, but still, you're a professional. You got to act like you can't say you quit on a play like he did. I mean, that's not a good look. It's not just so much of the fans are going to look at you cross-eyed and say, what the hell are you talking about? But your teammates. When your teammates are out there, you hope they're giving it your all, and then you hear a young player say, I took a play off. I mean, that doesn't bode well for the locker room. That's really what these guys care about. They shouldn't ever care about what we think of them. We're not in the locker room. We don't play with them. We're just giving our opinion from a distance. The guys in the locker room, those are the opinions that matter. I do think that with some veteran secondary players and not as much pressure on Banks this year, I do think he'll have a bounce back year. He's obviously got a lot of talent. I think he's a very good cover corner. His problem is locating the football. We've seen that. I mean, in today's NFL, when you are going against A.J. Brown, when you are going against CeeDee Lamb, when you are going against Terry McLaurin and now Deebo Samuel and all the other receivers in this division that are really good, they don't care if you're right there. They're going to make an adjustment on the ball. They're going to take it away from you. That's what they do. That's the way the game is played nowadays. So it doesn't need to be a perfect throw. Throw the ball up there, let your guy make it. I go back to it all the time. Fuck it. Leak down there somewhere. Just throw the ball. Let my neighbors make a play on it. So, yeah, I don't really worry about it. I still think we finish ahead of Dallas. I think that blows up by week 5, and I'm looking forward to it. I do think that's going to happen. I can see Pickens and Dak getting into it a little bit, and I'm going to enjoy it because, I'm just going to say it. Fuck Dallas. Okay. Thank you.
The other optimistic side of me, Bad Dog, from this trade as I'm thinking about it, I think we could all agree the Steelers are one of, if not the smartest organizations in the NFL. Like the team has only had 3 head coaches since the Super Bowl era. They're consistently a competitive team. They got rid of Chase Claypool. They seem to know when to move off of players.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a reason why the Steelers were looking to trade him. He's talented. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to side more with the Steelers in terms of being the smarter organization than the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe they know that something's up.
Yeah.
Well, and you also think, too, if he was with Mike Tomlin for that amount of time and Mike Tomlin is like, I'm done with this guy, I'm moving on. Good luck, Brian Schottenheimer. That's why I'm like, I agree with Bad Dog. Like, I think it's going to blow up in their face at some point because I just don't see a world where it didn't work with Mike Tomlin, but it works with the Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer. Like, no chance.
I hope not. We're halfway through the show. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, BetUS, who sponsors the stream. We're going to hear from our sponsor right now. As Mike Francesa would say, 40 seconds back after this. This video is being brought to you by the good people at BetUS. Do you like free money? You want to take advantage of a great promotion? Well, BetUS has a great deal for you. Go to BetUS and enter the promo code YouTube150 to get a 150% match deposit bonus on your first deposit and a 125% match deposit bonus on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000 in bonus cash. Great customer service is 24/7, 365 days a year. Fastest payouts in the business within 24 hours. And 10% gambler's insurance against all your net losses as long as you stay active every 6 months. Terms and conditions apply. And when you gamble, please do so responsibly. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. That's right. And again, just really quick, I got to get rid of these little you take a look at our odds. And Vegas not very high in the Giants. Remember, we're 200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. How do we look to win more than 5 games this year? Well, there you go. The betting odds are clearly in favor of us winning less than 5. Or I should say 5 or less. As you can see, 5 wins or less, minus 145. Over 5.5, 115. And I know it's May, so I'm going to tell you right now, probably thinking more with my heart than my head. I like the over 5.5.
I think I do too. Barely, but I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I see the most recent comment, Bad Dog. I just want you to highlight that real quick from Christy.
All right, hold on a second. Pull it up here.
I also wonder if once the schedule comes out next week, is if it will change.
Christy says this fan base has too many fair weather fans who watch too much mainstream media. Bad Dog, when's the last time that the mainstream media said anything good about the New York Giants? If you're a fair weather fan, aren't you usually a fan that's overly optimistic? To my knowledge, every time I turn on ESPN, Fox News, they destroy the New York Giants. Am I wrong on this? I don't think I've ever seen the mainstream media, for the most part, give props to the New York Giants. Even
the way I would look at it is this. I don't know how the Giants can have fair weather fans. We have been terrible for 10 years. A fair weather fan is somebody that disappears when a team is bad and shows up when a team is good. Well, if you're seeing Giants fans right now, it's not because we're good. I can tell you that. So if anything, the Giants fans may not all agree. It may be very toxic on Twitter because we're sick and tired of losing. But that's just passion. If the fans didn't care, they wouldn't get so animated about disagreements and how the team's going to be run or what they think about the team, what they think about the players. A fair weather fan would just not tune in. They wouldn't pay attention. Say, I don't give a shit. Oh, the Giants are good again. Now I'm going to be a fan. That's what a fair weather fan is, okay? A team that's been as bad as we have for a decade, if anything, it speaks to the passion and loyalty that this fan base has for this team. So I don't know if you understand the meaning of fair weather, but this fan base is not fair weather. It may be a lot of things. Fair weather is not one of them. That I can say.
I'm like, I would like to hear an example of what you would classify as fair weather fans based on what the media is saying, because I can speak for us that we have all been doing this for years. Some of us before COVID, some of us during COVID. This team has been literal shit, absolute dog shit. Since we've all been doing this, they've had one good year. So I know I also, like, through my DMs that I get on a regular basis, like, I've spoken to people who have been fans of this team for 60 years, and they're they're like, this is the worst fan. It's worse than the 70s. I have never seen worse football than what I've seen right now. And yet, still here, still going to games. I mean, I was at games last year, week, 15, I think, and there were still Giants fans there. They were flying planes over the stadium talking about how badly we suck, but they were there. They were there. People bought Jones jerseys. Like, most of us are all in. It's why we're insane, but we're pretty consistent with it.
Gluttons for punishment. And also, this channel wouldn't be growing nearly as fast as it is if there were no Giants fans. Like I said, we may not all agree on stuff, and it may be frustrating right now, but there's no question this fan base is extremely passionate about this team, or they wouldn't tune in. By the way, if you haven't done so, that's your cue to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Let's get to 5K because we're like at 4,600. We can get one really good push and get to 5K before training camp hits. That would be pretty awesome. We mentioned the pass rush earlier, and I know that this has kind of been a topic of conversation ever since Abdul Carter said he wanted to wear 56, which we all said absolutely not. Nobody ever touches 56. And I'm the advocate, just retired from the NFL because Lawrence Taylor, man. But we talked about it last week because Phil Simms had given his blessing to Abdul Carter, to Jackson, whoever wanted to wear it. He said, I'll retire my number. I don't care who wears my number. His family shot it down. His family said, no, you're not under retiring that number. So Abdul Carter is 0 for 2 with these numbers. So, Chris, what number does he wear? And should the players stop asking for retired numbers?
Yes, I think they should. I think it's become a trend that's kind of annoying now at this point. Like, they're retired for a reason. I get that last year that Malik Neighbors got number 1, but it was a player that hadn't played before the Super Bowl era. I would have been fine with it, like I said last week, if he wore 11, because Phil Simms came out and he was the one that initiated it. It wasn't like he asked Phil Simms. Phil Simms came out and said, I would welcome it. So at that point, I'm like, what? I'm going to argue against Phil Simms? He's the guy whose number's retired. He's the guy that had to play every Sunday. So, but ideally, yeah, they're retired for a reason. It's to honor that player. So, yes, I think they should stop this trend of asking to unretire players' numbers, especially a player as important as a guy like Phil Simms. If it was a guy that played 1920, more 1925, rather we started, but played all the way back then, I'd be more open to it. But I don't like the trend. I think they should leave the numbers retired as is. As far as what number he wears, I really don't care. So long as the guy's getting over 10 sacks a year and he's disrupting the opposing quarterback, he could wear 000 for all I care. I don't care. 51, I saw somebody bring that number up. That's more of a traditional linebacker number. I think a number like that may suit him. I don't care, though. I just want him to get after the quarterback.
I hear you. Adriana, what do you think about the whole Phil Simms saga? That's not really a saga. It's just he said yes. Family said, what are you, insane? That's your number.
I think it's comical, the whole thing. I'm just like, we had this great draft. Everyone's all excited about these draft players. And then now all everyone is talking about is this stupid jersey number. And I'm with Chris. Like, I don't think anyone at the end of the day cares what number he wears. I think some people want him just to pick a number so they can buy his jersey, which is great. But I think outside of that, I just kind of feel like there needs to be a set way that they go about it, right? Like, last year, I also think that them unretiring number 1 for Malik Neighbors set a precedent. I really believe that if that had never happened, I don't think Abdul Carter would have even asked. And I could be totally wrong on that. I just think he kind of thought, well, they did it for someone else on the Giants, and they did it for Malik Neighbors, who was a top 10 pick and had an incredible first season. And I'm the top 3 pick. And, Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks were part of the organization and did all these amazing things, whatever. So I don't know if I ever get the chance to talk to him one day, I will ask him that. But I just kind of feel like there needs to be like a certain way that they go about it, because he didn't, from what I understand, he is the same manager who is LT's manager. So he asked his manager, who then asked LT. And then, Phil Simms said on this FanDuel show that he would be open to it. He's fine with it, but then went back to his family and his family said no. I'm like, let's like set a process for this, because it sounds like it's just kind of all over the place. Then I don't even know how it went down with the Neighbors last year, but I think that he had to call the family to ask for permission. The Giants were like, we don't care. I'm like, all right, at some point, I think the organization has to step in and be like, we're the ones who retired the numbers. We decide whether or not they get unretired. So either we say yes or no, and then you got to call them directly to the player or whatever and ask them. And I kind of think the Giants should be like, no, we think it's an honor for these players to be retired. We retired them for a reason. Whoever it is, we're not unretiring them. And I think that Phil is a great sport. And I love that he made a joke out of it and said, if he can make the number 11 better, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But I'm also like, what are we doing here? Like, no one cares what numbers they wear. I know that some of these guys are attached to numbers, but it's not like he wore 56 before. So, I could see him about number 11, but I don't know. I'm like, someone just get involved and like, shut it down, or just one person says yes or no, and that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah. It's weird because positions used to be set numbers. Like there was no single digit numbers for wide receivers. They were like 80s. Like that was set for wide receiver. Linebackers were like 50s, and running backs were like 20 through 40, and quarterbacks were pretty much single digits or teens or whatever, like 0 through 20. So obviously that's changed. Anthony, what is your take on this entire situation with this number, and when can we put this thing to bed?
We should put it to bed right now. We should just stop talking about it. Honestly, I'm so tired of it. Like, who cares what number he wears? He's either going to wear 91, 51. He's going to have a 1 in it probably because he wore 11, but like, it just doesn't matter. It's not going to matter in a year from now. It's not going to matter in 5 years from now. It'll only matter if he gets it retired. So if he wants a retired number, he should just work hard at it and get his own number retired. And I agree with Adriana. The Giants should step in here. They should stop letting this be entertained. They retired the numbers, so just say the numbers are staying retired. It's like, imagine if a player was like, oh, I wore number 10 in college, let me wear number 10. Then the fan base would then definitely be all up in arms, because anything Eli Manning, the fan base gets really intense about. But I just think it's silly. Why are we still talking about this, And I don't even know why the New York Giants go this long without picking the numbers for the players, because all these other teams, I'm seeing the Browns, Shedeur Sanders got his number, this player got their number. Just get it over with. Get the guys in the building, have them pick their numbers, and move on, and stop making a spectacle out of it. But this is the offseason, so this is what happens. Things that don't matter apparently matter way more than we realize, and then they just become big arguing points for fans in the fan base, particularly who want to randomly take aim at Chris and I on Twitter for no apparent reason.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even bother responding to that. Yeah.
Me neither. It's not even worth it. Yeah. But I'm over the number thing, man.
You said that you said something stupid, and I was too nice to you, or something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, about the legacy number. I mentioned there are teams in the NFL and the collegiate level who have legacy numbers, and I said that's probably the easiest solution.
That was a dumb idea. It was an out of the box. I don't hate that.
Could be a dumb idea. It could be a good idea. I don't think it's going to satisfy.
I don't know if I'm necessarily for it, but it was clever. I didn't hate it.
I want to follow up with what Anthony said, because we both agree that the Giants need to get involved at some point. And I don't know when this started, where they just kind of sit back and let them take forever to pick their number. But I'm going to blame Dable for this, because Dable is such a player's coach and everything flies. You can do whatever you want. He's not strict with anyone except the quarterbacks. You can get the same penalty 15 times in a season. You can be undisciplined and do whatever you want on the field. You can be Tay Banks and be lazy, and you're not going to get benched and nothing's going to happen. Like, it's so unacceptable to me that unless someone knows better and knows that they've always let it go this long with players just picking whatever number they want, or like waiting 6 months to decide. Like, I remember last year, this was the whole thing with Neighbors, is after the draft, all I heard from people for months after, when is Neighbors going to pick a number? I want to buy a Neighbors jersey. I pre-ordered the jersey. When is it ever going to show up? And he didn't pick it. He didn't actually get it until, wasn't it training camp or even after training camp? Like, it was a long time.
It was late.
He wore 9 throughout training camp, and then at the end of the preseason, they finally announced that they unretired 1 for him. So it was a long time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Someone step in here and act like an adult and say, we're the ones who are paying you. Pick your goddamn number. You have a deadline. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like all these other teams, everyone has numbers.
For
There's
me,
a certain amount that are available. Pick one.
This is weird because, like I said, I've been a fan for over 40 years, since 1984. And I don't ever remember this being this big of a deal. I really don't. And honestly, yeah, Flaherty, I believe he's the first number ever to be retired in the NFL, the whole NFL. I could be wrong about that. It was definitely the first Giants number to be retired. And again, for me, that wasn't a huge deal because, he played long before I was born. A lot of people, are not that watch him play are not with us anymore. Probably everybody actually when he played. But when you got into Sims and Taylor, you got into two guys that completely changed your organization around from being losers for 20 years to winning 2 Super Bowls in the span of 4 years. And I grew up in that time, so I understand how much that meant to the fan base. Like I saw the generation, like my dad, for instance, how much that meant to him. Those numbers mean something to a lot of people that grew up in that era, lived through that era. So I understand it. My point with the numbers is this. Number one, give him number 19 because that's how many sacks he's going to have. Let's go. Number 2.
Wasn't that Galladay's number? I don't know if I like that.
Don't worry about him. I forgot all about him.
Jameis is wearing 19.
Oh, he is wearing 9. Okay, I didn't know Jameis was wearing 19.
I assume that's going to be his number from here on out because that's what he was wearing during practice.
All right, scratch that then. Whatever the hell number he is, I'm going to say this about. I don't think rookies should come in and ask for a retired person's number. You've never played a snap in the NFL. Never, right? I like your moxie. I understand you want to wear your number, but the fact of the matter is that number was retired by an organization who felt that player was important enough for them to say, we don't want anyone to wear your number. Number 11, Phil, that belongs to you. You brought glory back to the New York Giants after not winning a title for 30 years. You won 2 titles with the New York Giants. You are, at that time, probably the greatest quarterback in the history of the franchise. If you want to argue why a Tittle or Fran Tark.
Some still argue that he is. There's Giants fans from your era, Bad Dog, that still argue that he is.
Eli was better than Sims. I think Sims would agree. Okay, but I don't see how a rookie can come and never play a snap and you're going to go, we're going to give you this Legends number. Like I don't know why they would ever even consider it. And to Adriana's point, just stop considering it. Just make them pick a damn number. You're not getting 11. Pick something else. So I don't know. But don't worry, Anthony. That's the last time we're discussing it. The only reason I brought it up is because last week Sims said okay, and this week his family said no. So LT shut that down real quick, and that should have never even been asked to begin with. You don't even breathe. You don't even breathe 56 when you've never played a snap in the NFL. Cruz, there you go. Cruz on, thank you. He says asking for 56 is crazy, but damn, we have 13 numbers retired. Isn't that a lot? Well, we've been around 100 years, so it is a lot. But there's 53 men on the roster, 55 men on the roster, so there's other numbers. We're not the Yankees,
And I get it though, because it's football. There's double the amount of people on the roster, so there's less open numbers. I understand it, but if they're gonna unretire any numbers, Bad Dog, it can't, in my opinion, unless the guy does what Phil Simms did. Like if the guy comes out and just says, "I want to unretire my number. I want you to wear my number," I can't argue against that. But outside of that, I don't think players should be asking for any player that's played within the last 60, 70 years. If you played when they were wearing leather helmets, I'm not gonna go crazy if they unretire the number, but post Super Bowl era, those numbers shouldn't be touched. They just shouldn't be touched. And the post Super Bowl era, there's only been 4 retired Giants numbers. Obviously, the 2 we've discussed, it's Strahan and Eli, and that's it. So it's not, so I just leave them retired. If we become we look stupid if we start unretiring Phil Simms and Eli Manning and Michael Strahan. You leave them retired.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I just didn't. It was weird. Like I said, this whole situation was very interesting. I mean, I didn't think much about Malik Neighbors taking number 1. I did. I thought it was a very nice gesture of Flaherty's family to say you can wear that. And again, because I didn't see Flaherty play, maybe it didn't really resonate with me. But when you start to talk about 56, now I'm going to have a problem with that. I don't give a damn. We had 100 sacks his junior year at freaking pay. You're not Lawrence Taylor. There'll never be another Lawrence Taylor ever. It'll never happen. So yeah, I was like, you don't do that to yourself. Not to mention, I mentioned this last week or week before, you are really putting unneeded pressure on yourself to go in there and you are immediately putting that number on your back of a guy that had to retire because he was that great for the organization. You are putting unrealistic expectations on yourself. Maybe you have confidence in yourself, but when a fan sees you wearing that number, what are they going to think? Especially you come out of college with all this prowess and all these expectations, you're going to have higher expectations. You don't need that. They don't need that. There's enough pressure going from college to the NFL being a top 5 pick on a bad team, especially in New York. Like maybe that shit flies in Cleveland and Atlanta because I like to needle those cities because fuck them too. They're worthless. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe that flies there. This is New York, man. You're under a microscope all the time here. You can't be doing that shit. Can't happen. Grim, thank you. Unretired numbers before 1950. Honor all those players in a special group together in a stadium. Too many attractive numbers retired. It's an issue. I think
that's perfect. The Giants have been around 100 years. So much has changed from 1925 and even 1950 until now that you've got to have some sort of plan, process, or whatever. 1950 and earlier, or even the first Super Bowl was 1960.
Yeah, 1966, 67.
Yeah, so maybe even 1965 and earlier. Like I just feel like it's going to get out of hand because, the number of jerseys retired, and at some point, you're going to run out of numbers. So, and like we talked about, like so much has changed from then until now, and it's the same thing with the Yankees. Like they're going to run out of numbers. You have to do something at some point. So, I feel like this is the best and most fair way to do it because football was so different pre-Super Bowl, and even to where it is now.
Yeah, I don't know, but to your point, Adriano, the Giants got to come up with some kind of system for whatever the hell they're going to do, and it should just be that. That should be the rules. These are the numbers that now, again, the Giants can talk to these guys, do whatever they want to do, but they should go to the players and go, don't ask us for a number. These are numbers available. Pick one. Don't say, I want number 11. I want number 10. These are your numbers. Choose. Get it over with. Let's go. Next, choose. Let's go.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you. What is all this talk about? Shore blaming the Giants for his fall? I don't know what GMAB is.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
Oh, give me a break. Oh, okay. I'm old. There you go. You just got drafted and joined and play football. Yeah, we can touch on this really quick about.
I honestly didn't hear that Shedeur Sanders. I'm sure he did.
Pissed at the Giants.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. It's kind of stupid that he would just blame the Giants. 31 other teams passed on him. And, there may be more to it, as we discussed a day or two after the draft, that it could have been some backdoor deal not to draft. It's possible, but it wasn't just Giants specific. So it's kind of stupid to just blame the New York Giants. Doesn't really make any sense to me.
He was mad that they put that install package in there and he wasn't prepared for it. And Brian Dable called him out on it. That's what you got to grow up.
Well, if he's mad about that, then I'm glad the New York Giants didn't draft him. I mean,
that's what it is.
You're supposed to come prepared to something like that. I don't know how you get upset when you're going into a test that the teacher in that scenario, if you want to attribute it to school, is throwing you a pop quiz. Like, you should have been prepared. So I don't understand why he'd be throwing shade at the New York Giants. Brian Dable's doing his job. He's doing his due diligence. He's throwing the kitchen sink in him, and obviously Shedeur Sanders didn't respond the way in which he liked.
Yeah, and Anthony's point a couple of weeks back or a couple of shows back, when he said he didn't play the Shriner Bowl, he didn't compete in the combine. He wasn't prepared. He had a sense of entitlement. I'm getting drafted top 3. I mean, don't forget the Titans were also in on this guy. It's not like they weren't interested. I think they probably preferred Cameron Ward, but after the interview, there was no question they did, because you don't fall from, he looks like he's going top 3 to going 144th or whatever he did. Yeah, every team passing him, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. He got drafted in the 5th round, and Cleveland took Dylan Gabriel before they took Shedeur Sanders. I don't think there was a conspiracy at all. I mean, how do you work that? Does Cleveland go, we want him at 2, but how about we screw this kid and we make him fall all the way down to 144th, and then we'll let you take him there? Like, I don't know how that would work. I don't know what kind of collusion you could have between 32 teams to say, make sure this guy goes in the 5th round. You can have him, but we'll make sure you get him in the 5th round. I don't know how that
Jackson Dart's our quarterback. That's all I care about right now.
Yeah. But it's just funny how the Giants seem to be blamed for everything.
Right. Like, you don't think that if he had that type of interview with the Giants, he had that same type of interview with every other team. Dable is known for being hard or harder on his quarterbacks than some other coaches, but literally everyone knows that. So how can you be Shedeur Sanders and not be prepared that A, this is a job interview, and B, this is Brian Daboll we're talking about. And if I really want to be this team's quarterback, like I have to impress Brian Daboll. Like, did you not watch Hard Knocks? Like the lack of self-awareness is really frustrating. But from what I have seen, I don't know if it was before or after this report came out, since he's been in Cleveland, he showed up to practice early. He's been involved in the community. So it seems like this has hopefully humbled him a little bit, and he's learned from it, which is all that everyone can ask for.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's rooting against him. I'm pretty sure everybody's rooting for him, but something happened. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, speaking of players doing work in the community, I saw that Kayvon Thibodeau was being honored at a gala, and while speaking at the gala said that he's super excited to play alongside Abdul Carter and thinks that that is going to benefit him, which is something that I agree with. So I figure we could probably talk about that. Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, listen, there were so many fans that wanted to trade Kayvon when the Giants were making that pick for Abdul Carter. I pretty much said that I found that to be a ridiculous idea. But you know what? Now actually hearing Kayvon Thibodeau talk about it, and he was explaining how the defense already has ideas to get all of them on the field at the same time, I just got really excited. Like, I was like, let's fast forward. Let's get to the season. I can't wait for Kayvon to hopefully play better with more talent around him. I can't wait for Brian Burns to do the same, Dexter Lawrence to do the same, and I just can't wait to see the impact that this rookie Abdul Carter is going to have on the defense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this defensive line actually take shape.
That was a great, encouraging thing that Kayvon said, because in the back of your mind, you're a little worried. Is he going to be potentially upset that he could potentially have at least a slightly reduced role? But he's taking the smart approach. And all you have to do is look at the Philadelphia Eagles last year. They had a loaded defensive line. Milton Williams was a part of that. He got an opportunity to thrive because of all the talent around him, at least partially. And he got a huge deal with the New England Patriots. So Kayvon may look at it as an opportunity. Listen, I got great talent around me, around this whole defensive line. Even if I get 10 less snaps a game, I am going to be able to make more of an impact in the snaps that I have because of the extra talent around me. So I think that's a really mature approach by Kayvon.
Yeah, listen, we talked about this before, okay? The Giants, when they were winning their Super Bowls, had incredible defenses. I mean, incredible. Last time we were really good, we had a NASCAR package. We had a shitload of pass rushers. You can't have too many of them. It's one of the most important positions in football. And when you're getting to the quarterback, again, your secondary can be less than, average. If a quarterback has to move off spot, if the timing is off, you know how important. As people that watch Daniel Jones for 6 years, we understand how important timing is with your wide receiver on a lot of these routes. And we also understand how important protection is, because Daniel Jones was never protected either. So we understand that if your pass rush is getting there, it's going to mask a lot of deficiencies in your secondary. And it's also going to get your defense off the field and not give up these 8 to 9 minute drives where you're gassed at the end of the game. So again, I am very excited to see what this pass rush is going to bring. There's so much talent there. It is another year with Shane Bowen. Obviously, Carter hasn't played in this system, and the secondary guys haven't played in this. Adebo and Holland, they haven't played in this either. But I think Shane Bowen, we know that he's not a guy that blitzes. He wants to get there with his front four. Abdul Carter is certainly going to help in that aspect. We're not going to have to bring extra men, because these guys should be able to get to that quarterback without a problem. Where is this? I wanted to bring this one up here. Would you?
He's trying to own the Giants now, right? I saw that. Mm-hmm. I think you posted that actually, right? Or maybe it was Alex that posted that. I saw.
Yeah, I posted that.
That he's part of a group now that's trying to buy the Giants. Michael Strahan.
Oh, would you unretire 92 for Strahan waving that Eagles flag?
I gotta be honest. I think the reactions to Strahan waving the Eagles flag are so overblown. Like, I don't really care. Like, there are fans who want him taken out of the Ring of Honor, who want his jersey number unretired. Like, guys, did you watch Michael Strahan play? Do you know what he meant to the organization, what he meant to that Super Bowl run, to that team, to that locker room? I mean, he's still one of the greatest players in franchise history, in NFL history at that. I'm so over the Eagles flag thing. It was an ugly look for sure, but at the same time, the Giants were just embarrassing last year, and they pissed off a lot of their legends for saying entering the season that it was going to be this huge celebration of 100 years and then having maybe their most embarrassing season ever. So I think Strahan was just a little bit better, and you know what? That's fine.
Rock bottom. I think we finally hit it last year. I don't see how you can get worse. I mean, the organization never lost more than 13 games in a year. They did last year. They never had an 8-game losing streak at home in 100 years. They did last year. They were terrible. The Eagles win the Super Bowl with our best player going over there and running for over 2,000 yards, and one of our legends waving an Eagles flag. Does it get worse?
It always could, Doug. We say this every year, and it always could. It always could.
It can't, Chris. No, it can't. It just cannot. It cannot be worse.
I hope. I don't think it will. I do.
It started with them damn uniforms, by the way, in week 1. I just want to say that.
Those were hideous.
We didn't get off to a good wearing those uniforms, losing 28-6. And yeah. I'll give you guys before we get out of here, real quick. I want to fix this. Somebody asked me one of the streams I was doing the other night, who do I want the Giants to play week 1? And I said, I want them to play somebody like the Bears, the Saints. I want a winnable game. And they said, why would you want to play an easy team? Why don't you want to play a tough team? I said, because I want to win.
Of course, you want to get off.
I want the team to win. Adriana, do you have a preference on who they play? Who would you like to see them play week 1?
I'm with you, either Saints or Raiders. I want a game where I feel like we can win, and all of us as a whole, the organization, the fans, the players, the coaches, we can all have confidence for 1 week. For the first week of the season would be the best way to start, and I think it would give everyone some sort of confidence moving forward. So I feel like those two teams, maybe even the Patriots, I feel like we have the best chance of beating, or at least we would look competitive. But I think those teams we can beat, especially if it's at home.
I'm going to throw out an interesting one because I just looked at their opponents, Bad Dog. I always like getting rookie quarterbacks as early as you can possibly get them. Minnesota's got a rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy.
Ooh.
I think I'd like to get Minnesota because I feel like getting them week 1, an inexperienced quarterback, you may be able to pick up a team you don't expect to pick up maybe week 8, week 9. So
especially with the storyline that the Giants are so into McCarthy last year.
Yeah.
Minnesota. Definitely. I think, Anthony, did you mention that last
They did open against Minnesota last year, and it was very ugly.
Yeah, but that was what Sam.
Maybe we could redeem ourselves.
Yeah.
Somebody, Anthony, was you? So I thought somebody brought that up about the McCarthy and the Giants thing week 1. Maybe it wasn't in this stream. Maybe it was something else I did. But Anthony, do you have a preference on who they play week 1?
I want to play Dallas, man. I want to actually win against the Cowboys in week 1 because that used to be the most exciting matchup. Like I remember 2011 when the Giants went on that Super Bowl run. Both of those Dallas games were historic moments for the New York Giants. And I remember throughout the subsequent years, all of those Dallas matchups being so excited for them because they meant something and they were intense. They were always good games. And over the last couple of years, that's completely fallen apart. We've been walked all over from Dallas. So I want to start week 1, beat the Dallas Cowboys, and that will prove to the fans this is a new era. We're off on the right foot for the season, and we're finally turning things around. So give me Dallas and give me a win in week 1 over the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that will rejuvenate this fan base that has been dormant for at least the last year, probably the last 2 years. Give me Dallas and give me the win over the Cowboys.
I'm still staying with my hot take. We're finishing ahead of Dallas in this division. I don't care if they got George Pickens or not. Anyway, with that said, that'll bring us to a close of another edition of Giants Collective. We always appreciate all your support on this channel. Again, thank you for helping us grow at the rate we have grown. For Adriana, Anthony, and Anatana, everybody out there, enjoy the rest of your hump day. We're going to go watch the Knicks try to make this comeback. Got him right where we want him, Chris. Down by 9, right? We got him right where we want him.
They were down 18, or 16, I think it was. So they
down 20.
Pretty
right where we want.
I'm talking about this game.
Oh, gotcha.
It was the half pretty well. But
checking it every once in a while. Anyway, enjoy the next game, everybody. We will see you on Friday, and we out. Peace.